Welcome to Wet and Worthy Woman. Not just a podcast, but a global revolution. A movement of women taking back the burned, silenced, suppressed, shamed, and forbidden parts of our feminine truth. You're here to heal the rebel woman way and take back all that you've been told not to be as a woman. Join me, Charlotte Little, founder of The Wild Femme, trauma survivor and liberation leader, to reclaim your ancient feminine codes from society, shame, and suppression as we have these juicy, rebellious conversations to set your soul free. Prepare to fuck yourself back to freedom, and welcome to the Wet and Worthy Woman Revolution. Hello, gorgeous loves, and before you press play on this epic, juicy episode about existential kink, I need to tell you that I have just opened the doors to the first ever Wet and Worthy Woman retreat. We are gathering for 4 days here in Tenerife, Spain, in the Canary Islands, between the volcanoes and the ocean, to reclaim the parts of your womanhood that they have tried to silence and exile the most. I will be walking you through my signature healing method, my sold out program, Wet and Worthy Woman, and taking you through my own personal reclamation practices that took me from sexual trauma to the woman that I am today. We will be going deep into the forbidden feminine and taking back the lover, the witch, the slut, the priestess, reclaiming your voice, your pussy, your pleasure, your expression. And we will be doing all of this in a luxurious ancient Spanish finca. You have unlimited use of the sauna. You can jump into the saltwater swimming pool at any time you please. And our huge temple space is overlooking the ocean with a badass sound system so that we can turn the whole place into a sacred ancient Egyptian style strip club every night to do epic embodiment portals of reclamation and liberation. I am calling in 9 women for this container, and early bird is now open only for the next few weeks. Now, this is my first ever retreat in 5 years. Many women have been waiting for this, so if you are interested, please book soon to avoid missing out. I can't wait to come together with you in paradise here on the island of the heart chakra. I am waiting for you here to join me and create this ripple effect, because we don't just gather for freedom and safety in our own bodies, but we do this for all the women who cannot, who don't have the opportunity to be here in this work, in this reclamation. We do it for them, we show up for them. So I'm going to put all the links in the show notes for you. Please come and join me. It's going to be beyond fucking life-altering, system-shaking, earthquakingly potent and powerful. Come be part of the sisterhood, or go on over to thewildfemme.com/retreat, and I will see you in paradise this October 9th, 2025. Mwah. I love you so much. Hello, wonderful community, tribe, coven, witches, goddesses. This conversation, oh my god, I was just so excited for it, to welcome my beautiful fellow she-wolf into the space. I can't wait for you to meet Rosie today. I'm going to read out this epic intro for Rosie, and then I'm going to welcome her in with all her wisdom and her wildness. So, Rosie is a certified existential kink coach, tarot reader, and intuitive sound healer with a master's in transpersonal psychology, spirituality, and consciousness. She is devoted to embracing the full sacred mess of being human as a pathway to realizing divine wholeness. She helps people to liberate the parts of themselves that they've ghosted, gagged, or quietly shoved under the rug through a blend of dream work, parts work, magic, and shadow work. Her greatest joy in life is being a walking permission slip for being wildly, weirdly, unapologetically yourself. Even, especially, the parts of you that you think you shouldn't bring to the party. Rosie! Anything you want to add to that spicy little intro?
Oh, I think that covers all the bases. It's quite nice to like receive that actually. I was like, yeah, she sounds pretty cool actually. Yeah, I want to get to know her.
She is pretty fucking cool. So, Rosie, we met like years ago now. I don't know how many years, but years ago, potentially in 2021, when you came along to one of my events. I think that's how we met, right? You came along to
Yeah.
one of my sensuality, sensual embodiment temples, and the rest was history. We've shared like many, many wild gatherings together since then. And recently, I had the absolute fucking pleasure of being held by Rosie in her existential kink coaching container, which completely radically transformed the way that I see one of my biggest struggles. In fact, I literally just got spanked by my partner today for the same, like, I get spanks from my husband that would never be there if it wasn't for this woman. So thank
You are
you.
welcome. Yeah.
Thank you. You can take all the credit for that. And like seriously, the abandonment wound was once one of my like biggest triggers and still is. And it used to only come out in trauma response. And now it's turned my marriage into like a hot game, which just ends in daily spanks, basically, because of this woman. So get ready to turn your deepest like pain points into seriously spicy little tactics of the kind of work that I've never done anywhere else. I think after I'd worked with Rosie, I said to her, I'm never going back to regular therapy again. Like, this has completely changed my life. So I can't wait to welcome you in and get you to explain to everyone what existential kink coaching is. And obviously, not anyone can just become the kind of coach that turns people's fears and pains into naughty little pleasures. So, how did you get here? Can you tell us a bit about your story and how you became this lovely, wonderful, spicy little version of you?
I love this. I love this so much. Oh my God. So much fun. Yeah, so my origin story, I guess, a little bit about my origin story. So, yeah, I grew up with no real spiritual beliefs. I was like vaguely agnostic, maybe. I was like, ma, there's probably something going on, don't really know what it is, ma. But I was always like a deeply curious being, and that kind of my outlet for that was mostly science. So I did science at university, um, and like to be honest, was like a deeply, deeply unhappy person. Like had a huge period of depression, had like an eating disorder, was like riddled with perfectionism and low self-esteem, and so self-critical. It was like very, very crippling. Um, and so part of my degree at uni was doing psychology, and I was taught the biochemical model of depression. So I was like, oh, that's fine. Like I am the way I am because of some like wonky serotonin levels. That's chill. I'll just like take these antidepressants and that will like sort me right out. And that kind of like I'm not speaking out against like medications like that because they can be super helpful, like really like needed that at that point in my life. Um, but then shit started to get really interesting when I had my first psychedelic induced mystical experience. This was in 2019. Had some LSD with a friend. And up until that point in my life, I'd like dabbled a little bit in psychedelics, but all of my experiences had been very like, I'm here in this reality, everything's like a bit wobbly and colorful and like I'm laughing and blah blah blah. This time was very different. Very, very different. And I started having this like wild trip. It was kind of my first bad trip in quotation marks. Um, like time went super weird. I mean, I won't go into like the whole story now, but like I essentially hit a point where like I was beginning to panic and I was like, okay, I need to like hold myself in this. And so I like sat myself down and I was like, okay, nothing can hurt me. Like I'm safe. I'm in my room. I'm here with my friend. The only thing that can hurt me is my own mind. And as I realized that, I had this distinct sensation of consciousness becoming aware of itself. It was like I'd looked into a mirror that like an interdimensional cosmic mirror that I didn't know had been there. It was like I caught myself out for a second. It was so trippy. And this huge current of energy came through my body, and I like popped off into another dimension. Like I left my body. I was like a floating point of awareness in a tunnel of light. Um, it was wild. And then when I came back into my body, I had this really distinct sensation of my identity being pieced back together. So it was like, I'm a human, I'm a woman, my name is Rosie. I'm in my flat in London tripping on LSD. And I turned to my friend that I was with and I was like, I think I've just had a profoundly spiritual experience. But I had like no framework for how to hold that because I just grew up with no spiritual beliefs. I was like reading New Scientist articles, like there must be some answers for me in here, and there wasn't. Um, so I started turning to like ancient wisdom traditions, and I found some descriptions in like Buddhist writings about particular states of consciousness, and I was like, oh, this resonates more with what I experienced. Um, and then that led me to find this master's degree that I did, which is run by an organization called the ALAF Trust. And they kind of specialize in like niche, weird consciousness studies degrees, that type of stuff. Um, but yeah, their whole way of framing it is um, they want to be a bridge between modern scientific methods and ancient wisdom. So I was like, perfect, that's a bit of me. I had this whole science thing going on. Then I popped out of my body and I've got some questions that need answering. So this feels like a good avenue for me to go down. um, and yeah, like through that process, I was in this just like huge spiritual awakening, unraveling, and really seeing how a lot of my suffering that I had experienced when I was younger were it wasn't just this like biochemical thing, they were like wounds that hadn't healed. And so I went on like a big healing journey, learn loads of different like healing modalities. I'm trained in Reiki, started reading tarot, did a lot of like plant medicine retreats and that kind of thing, which really helped. Um, and then, yeah, a couple of years ago, I'd just finished my master's thesis on psychedelic integration. And my sensible good girl plan was I am going to train in some kind of psychedelic integration framework because that's what I feel really passionate about. And, I'll help people integrate their psychedelic experiences. And then I read Existential Kink. And then I read it like 4 more times. And I like could not get enough of this book. I was inhaling. I listened to the audiobook like 4 times, and then I got the paperback so that I could make notes and like stick post-it notes in it. I was loving it. And I was experiencing such deep shifts in my own perception and my own patterns and stuff that I was like, it took over everything. And and then they announced that they were doing yeah, like a coaching practitioner course. And I really came to this crossroads where I was like, all right, okay, so I can see down like this road, we've got like the sensible plan of like, yep, gonna do psychedelic integration coaching. Like that was the plan. That was the plan that we wrote down that we should stick to because that's like a sensible plan. And then I was like looking down this other road, like, or I could spend quite a large amount of money on this existential kink coaching program. And my body was telling me which way to go. Like I was so wildly turned on by the idea of like going on this left-hand path and like sacking in the sensible plan of what I should do. And just embracing this like extremely weird, taboo, witchy, like tantric method of shadow integration, basically. So obviously I ended up doing that. I couldn't say no to that, could I? And I'm so glad that I did because it's just been enormous fun, enormous, enormous fun. So yes, that's kind of how I arrived to you today.
Fuck yeah. I remember so many pieces of this story as well. Like One of them was when you and I were at the same women's rights march, and you were like, "Oh my God, you need to read this book. We need to start like an existential kink book club and read it together and tell each other like how the practices are going." So then Rosie and I started to do that. She got me onto the fucking audiobook. Now I'm listening,
About that.
I like sped through this book, and then we're like sharing with each other on WhatsApp what's going on. And you were like, "Oh my God, I just did this thing about like money, and I just did this kink practice, and oh, I realized I'm getting really turned on by like this thing." And I was like, "I'm getting really turned on by self-sabotaging my success." And we were like going back and forth and sharing each other's fucked up things. And then yeah,
Love it.
it's just amazing.
I deeply love it. Like honestly, the amount of people that it's kind of funny as well because I almost don't really have to even say to people, read this book. Like I just start talking about it, and people are like, "I'm gonna order that book straight away," and then I'll get a message like the next week and be like, "This book is insane." I'm like, "Yes, thank you. Dive into the rabbit hole with me. It's so much fun in here."
Yes. And whenever I told anyone about the coaching that you were giving me, they were like, "What? I'm sorry, what? Can you tell me more about that, please?" So please, can you explain to the audience
Yes,
what existential kink is?
yes.
Because, yeah, whenever I mention it to anyone, they're basically like, "I want to know everything about this."
Yeah, we should give some wider context. This is good. Yeah, so it's a first of all, it's a book and a philosophy put forward by a woman called Carolyn Elliott. She's now married, so she's Carolyn Lovewell. Wicked magician and just general badass. She's great. And it's based on the idea that like us humans have these strange unconscious desires for the bad things, the bad and wrong things in life. Um, Pain, humiliation, constriction, all of this kind of stuff that our ego likes to be like, no, no, that's wrong and bad. I don't like those things. What are you talking about? And we can like the idea essentially is that our souls, like this deeper part of us, is a sacred reflection, a microcosm of um, God, goddess, the creator, universe, whatever word you want to use there. We are like a little reflection of that. You've probably heard the kind of magical phrase as above, so below, as within, so without, which really speaks to this idea of us being little reflections of the greater whole. Um, and you can see evidence, like little clues for this everywhere. Like I always think about the wholeness of the seasons, how we not only have the like beautiful blossoming of the flowers and everything, but we have these seasons of like decay and putrefaction and death, or like the brutality of nature. Like there are little clues everywhere that God is essentially a kinky motherfucker and created this world that is so full of like light and beauty and laughter and play, and also so full of like pain and sorrow and grief and death and yeah, all of these like not nice, not good things. And what we usually do as humans with all of this not good stuff is we like to shove it down into the unconscious where we can't see it. It's like, nope, I'll just pop that away down there so I don't have to look at it. I don't have to identify with that. Um, and that is what we would, in psychological terms, we would call that the shadow. Um, and essentially, existential kink is a rapid shadow work integration method that says we can kind of align ourselves with the more divine, larger whole by allowing ourselves to get off on and radically have approval for and love on all of these things that we have repressed into the shadows. And it's a somatic practice. It's really like a deep, sometimes erotic embrace of these like shadowy taboo things. And the really cool thing about that is like anything that we shove into the unconscious has a lot more power when it's there rather than when it's made conscious. So often our shadow will kind of like secretly, naughtily come out sideways by manifesting circumstances in our lives that we're like, oh, this like bad thing is happening again. Like, I hate this. This is so bad and wrong. And actually, there's like an unconscious part of us which is like, excellent, great. This is exactly what I wanted. So by making the unconscious conscious, we're actually reclaiming a lot of our power. Um, yeah, and the kind of shifts and transformations that can happen when you start to do that are just excellent. Yeah. That like Carl Jung had this quote, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And like that shit is so fucking true. Like you can pretend that stuff isn't there and that it's not in you, but like it's secretly running the show a lot of the time. So yeah, existential kink is this way of like fully lovingly embracing all of these things that our egos would like to say that we do not like, when actually we secretly do.
Ah, yes. And to anyone that needs an example of this, I actually wrote one down from my personal
Oh,
experience.
I love this. Yay.
I came prepared because your advice is stored on a note in my phone with a star on it in my favorites to return to on repeat. So, like, obviously, it's quite unconventional that this method, existential kink, asks us to go into our wounds, embrace them, and actually turn them the fuck up. Like, literally turn the volume up on the wounds and go into it and embody it and like speak it out in the mirror, which anyone that's done affirmations would be like, what? You what? You want me to tell, you want me to speak out loud all of the negative stories that my mind is telling me. You want me to turn the volume up on them. You want me to say them to myself in the mirror. They're like, isn't that me manifesting my worst fear? So I want us to go into that as well. But
Yes.
for an example, when I was working with Rosie, it was particularly around the anxious attachment that I felt to my relationship, and that there was this part of me that would get so graspy and needy and a little bit suffocating out of fear of abandonment. Not that anyone else was calling her needy or suffocating, but I felt that she was needy and suffocating, and I was shaming her. My husband had no fucking idea what was going on. He was just, he was just really happy. But like the side effects were that I was in panic mode and, waiting for a text or waiting for something or like wanting that fix from this love. So when I brought this up to Rosie and I brought up, oh, I never met my dad and I've got this abandonment wound and I feel graspy and I feel anxious attachment patterns coming up. Any other therapist would probably be like, oh, of course you feel that. Of course. Yeah, your dad left you. That's awful. This is what Rosie said. This is what existential kink says, right? She probably wants daddy to come and tell her off because she never had a daddy to do that. So let your husband in on the pattern and have him spank you because that's the attention that she's probably looking for. And holy fuck, was Rosie correct? Like, she loves, my subconscious loves to be like, I'm going to get bitchy for no reason whatsoever so that he pays me attention, because some weird part of my subconscious is like, he hasn't paid me as much attention today as normal. That must mean he hates me. So I'm going to, instead of asking for attention, I'm going to cause a drama so that I get attention. And that drama used to work, right? That little thing that my subconscious used to do, get anxious and maybe say something a bit like snappy and bitey. He used to react to that. And I used to be like, a part of my subconscious would be like, yes, he's paying us attention now.
Num, 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 num. Yeah.
And even this morning, he was like, you're being ridiculous, bend over. Spanks now. So it reduces the amount of arguments times 1,000 because it just turns it into like a fun game. But why does this work? Because obviously most people would be like, oh no, but that part's really vulnerable, and that part, or they do what I did, where they go into a pattern of shaming that part, trying to
Yeah.
and being like, you little fucker are going to sabotage my whole relationship
Getting
by
the duct
being
tape out, like, shut up, you. Down to the basement you go.
exactly.
We've got our shit together. We're never needy. What are you talking about?
Exactly. I'm like, come on, girl. We're like really, we're really cool. You know that.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
But why does it work to let her like take up a bit more space, but in this existential kink way, of course, in the somatic practices, but like, why does it work to turn them up?
I love this. I love this so much. It just brings me so much joy. Oh my God. Um, yeah, so I liked that you were kind of bringing in the law of attraction manifestation piece because I think that helps like really clarify a lot of it. Like traditionally in the way that those types of teachings are given is like, yeah, just ignore all the bad shit that you're saying to yourself. Put that in a box, put the box on a shelf, never ever go to that shelf ever again. Close the door, just pretend it's not there. Um, that doesn't work. Like it's still there in you, whether you are like consciously acknowledging it or not. So rather than kind of like spraying ourselves with these perfumey affirmations of like, no, like I am enough. I do believe that I am enough and like everything's going to be okay, which is frankly just like gaslighting yourself into believing a reality that isn't true for you at that point. Obviously, this is a specific example, but it just asks us to get really radically honest with where we actually are. Like, this is part of the reason why I deeply love existential kink because it's essentially a practice of learning to love reality, like learning to love what actually is, like what is actually happening in our lives, and ultimately like seeing that as a sacred doorway into the truth of like the messy humanness of being, yeah, of being a human. Um, and so when we when we just admit to ourselves what is actually happening, like it can be profoundly liberating. Like I think, did you almost bring up like the tapping stuff? Like the positive affirmation and the tapping stuff, again, we're often taught to just say like, I am enough and I believe that it's all gonna be okay and whatever else. Like there's an EK version of tapping that we can do where we just like admit like I feel like a complete and total rat bag today. And I deeply love and accept myself. It's like this meta layer of love and approval that we can just wrap over our entire being. Like, I cannot even explain. I've had times where I've spent like a good week trying to run away from and deny and like productivity my way out of like actually just feeling like a total rat bag for like whatever reason, you know. I've like tried to like do all the things on my to-do list so I can be like, yeah, I've got self-worth. Like I believe in myself. That's totally fine. And the amount of like ecstatic hilarity and relief that I get, like sitting down in front of the mirror and being like, I feel like a complete worthless just rat bag today. And I deeply love and accept myself. And I'll be like crying, laughing tears because I'm like, oh, thank God, I'm like aligned with reality again. So yeah, it's profoundly liberating. I mean, the other piece about that is when we get really honest with where we actually are, it's like this amazing just creative field of possibility opens up because you can then like it's kind of like the idea of something being good or bad or like this feeling of like really high stakes just is eliminated. It's no longer like a matter of life and death or like, oh, what if they like me or they don't like me? It's just like, oh yeah, like this thing doesn't have to be bad. It's just a thing that's happening. And now I get to choose how I engage with that. E.g., maybe I'm going to get my husband to repeat to me all of the bad shit that I'm saying to myself and bend me over and spank me. And then instead of becoming this like internal self-deprecating dialogue in your mind, you just turn it into this whole creative game. Like it's a stroke of creative genius. I love shit like this. It's so good.
It's so you as well. Like just knowing you before EK and knowing you afterwards, I'm like, it's just so you. It's so you.
I love that. Thank you.
Hello, beautiful, and I'm interrupting this episode just for a moment to tell you about the practice that changed my life. And all you need is 45 minutes and your fingertips. This is tantric self-massage, yoni massage. And this practice changed my life so profoundly because it finally allowed me to massage out the sexual trauma that my body remembered, which was creating so much tension and numbness in my internal world. This also reconnected me and created a divine relationship to my pussy that dissolved shame and basically made her my bestie. So if you're interested in learning this massage technique from me, I've done years of training in this massage technique and massaged 70 women myself. And I'm ready now to finally teach you how to give yourself this massage. Then you're going to want to jump into Wise Nectar, my de-armoring course for women to reconnect to their sacred anatomy. Inside, there's 4 recorded de-armoring rituals for you. One of them just focuses on the external so that you can dissolve shame. The next one is all about pleasure and dissolving numbness. There's a witch de-armoring where you release the witch wound and reclaim your voice and your throat whilst massaging your sacred space. And the final one, you fucking make love to money and dissolve blocks around receiving pleasure, money, support, love, and yourself. So if you're ready to jump in, you can claim all 4 massages lifetime access, repeat them every month, and see your whole life fucking transform, your relationship with your body and sex transform for good. You can get the course now for £44 by using code WET. I will leave the link in the show notes, or you can go to thewildfemme.com/wise-nectar. Can't wait to have you inside yourself. Can you tell us maybe a personal kinky success story of how you've EK'd yourself out of something, or like what have you noticed this has transformed for you personally?
Yes, oh my God, there are like so many examples. I think one of the like clearest examples that I can give is, for so many years I had this like deeply ingrained habit of what I labeled procrastination. And my pattern would be like, I had it all throughout school, all throughout university. My God, I made my life so difficult for myself. The pattern would be, get given an assignment, put off assignment until maybe 3 days before, like just deny that it existed. About 3 days before, have like a crushing panic attack of like, shit, I haven't done this thing. Huge like influx of just shadowy attack, self-attack of like, you can't do this, you're worthless, whatever the particular like flavor of that was. I would become crushed by that, total crumple, awful, basically become catatonic and unable to do anything for about a day. Then pick myself back up, be like, okay, we can do this, we can totally do this. Sit down, write the assignment in a absolute adrenaline frenzy of like last minute rush, up all night, writing all the things, hand it in, say to myself, I'm never going to do that again. That was absolute hell. And then I'd do it all over again next time for years, for years, for years. So when I read Existential Kink, I was like, okay, like, what am I getting out of this? Like, I have to be honest. I am creating the situation repeatedly. What am I getting out of this? And one of the interesting things about Existential Kink is that the specific like circumstance that you find yourself in is actually kind of neutral. It's actually kind of irrelevant. Like the actual goings on of what's happening in your life is essentially just a vehicle to give you a particular sensation, a particular inner experience. And when I like dropped into it and kind of really felt like, okay, what's the sensation here that I'm getting when I'm playing out this pattern? It's like, oh yeah, I can see that I am getting like this really hot, intense sense of like, am I gonna make it? You know, like, am I gonna, the stakes are so high. Like, am I gonna make it? I get this like adrenaline rush. I feel really alive. I feel really electric. Like, it allows me to live with this huge sense of tension and suspense, which actually is extremely exciting. You know, like, again, we see reflections of this everywhere in life. Like, you would not watch a film about somebody who just like lives a very straightforward, perfect, good life. Like, we love the drama and the suspense. Like, there's something in us which is deeply fascinated by that. Like, okay, yeah, I can totally see how this pattern of leaving things until the last minute gives me this incredible sensation of excitement. And this is another thing as well of like how we mentally frame sensations essentially determines whether we experience that as pleasure or pain a lot of the time. And so, like, physiologically, arousal and desire and excitement feels kind of the same as fear, but it's just the psychological framing that's different. So once I kind of absorbed this, I fortunately had another assignment to hand in. So I was like, great, I can try this out. And it totally worked. So I was like, again, I left it until the last minute, but rather than like shaming and judging myself for that, I was like, okay, let's like just consciously enjoy this. Let's consciously enjoy the experience that I have created for myself. And so I'd like be there with my Word document and like I'd get like maybe a little moment of nearly freezing, and then I'd be like, okay, no, like lean into this, like allow yourself to open to this sensation. And it was kind of almost like looking off the edge of a cliff. Like, I'd get that little like hit of adrenaline of like, oh, like, am I going to do this in time? And then I'd like be furiously writing. I did this for my dissertation, completely changed my conscious experience. Like, instead of it becoming a hellish, torturous thing, it was still like a little bit torturous, but in like a good, fun way. You know, I was like fully getting off,
Mm.
and it was like wild. It was mad. I was in like maniacal laughter and like just thoroughly enjoying the insanity of the whole thing. It was great. And then, like, the other interesting piece is like one of the ideas in existential kink is desire evolves through fulfillment, not repression and denial. So actually, when you allow yourself to consciously enjoy this thing that you have unconsciously been creating for yourself, it starts to change, like all on its own without you kind of forcing it. It magically just starts to change. And for context, previous to this, I had spent so much time trying to like self-improve my way out of this pattern of like, I will be a good girl and make like a nice plan for myself. And like, I'll do all of this like self-development work on learning how to like concentrate more and like just really, really desperately trying to self-develop my way out of this procrastination. Anyway, like really recently, after just fully accepting, like, okay, maybe I just like living with the sense of suspense and adrenaline, and that's fine. I had to write another assignment quite recently, and it was so fascinating because I still left it until the last minute, but not as much as normal. I gave myself a bit more time. Wasn't trying to, it just happened. And still found myself writing right up until the deadline. But usually my experience of that would have been like checking the clock every 5 minutes and being like, am I going to get it finished in time? Like, oh, the time is running out. Da, 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 da. This time, I was like so fucking calm. I was just like writing, and I'd look at the time and I'd be like, yeah, I've got half an hour. I've still got like 1,000 more words to write. Just carry on. It was like all suffering had been completely eliminated. And I just came to this kind of like almost transcendental realization of like, yeah, maybe this is just who I am. Like, maybe I just like a deadline. Maybe this is just part of my creative process. Maybe some people like having it like really spaced out. Actually, I just quite like the last minute like rush. And I don't have to use the label of procrastination. I can just say this is my creative process and like fully own that. And actually that feels intensely liberating and just in greater alignment with like the wide diversity of human beings and how different we all are and like the different ways that we like to operate. And instead of just like for years I was like, I'm a procrastinator and therefore I'm wrong and bad, and now I'm like, no, this is my creative process, I fully own that. I can love that shit. So good. So good.
So powerful. And the radical acceptance is what is really shaking up the self-development spiritual world, which is a lot about fixing and healing. Like I've completely gone off the word healing
Me
because
too.
it implies there's something wrong that needs to be healed. But there's nothing wrong. Like I can't change the fact that my dad walked out of my life when I was 1 year old and I never met him. I'm probably also like always going to be a bit anxious about losing the people I love.
Yeah.
That's fucking human. Whereas
Yeah.
when I came to you, I was seriously like trying to get to secure attachment. I was like, being anxiously attached is bad and it's shameful and I need to fix this. How can I be secure? If I'm not securely attached, I'm wrong and I'm worse than securely attached
Yeah.
people. And I put my partner on a pedestal because he was secure, because he had two very stable parents and I was just like the fucking broken one. And you said something to me. I'd like written this whole story that I was really broken and unlovable. And you said something to me that was like this, which I think will help everyone listening. You said, imagine like securely attached people are kind of like those stock image trees. They're like perfect. The forest is it's just like a straight up tree.
Just a straight tree.
It's just a straight pine tree. It's like tall and straight. But you're like the twisty, wonky, like interesting tree that people stop and take photos of. No one wants to be the stock image tree that everyone just like a copy and paste and everyone just walk past. You're like the twisty, you're fucking interesting. You got some like shit going on there. And I was like, yeah, I'm the wonky tree, and like actually loving being the wonky tree instead of trying to be the fucking stock image forest.
Yes. Yes. Literally, I feel really passionately about this at the minute. Like it's I just think God bless our little souls. And I see so much of this in the new age, like spiritual self-development space at the minute. Like we get so confused about what healing is. Like, and ironically, I now prefer the term wholeness. And ironically, the word healing has the same root as the word whole. Like healing actually means to become whole. And to become whole means being able to embrace the full spectrum of all of our humanness, including all of our like messy, all of our messy grief and the ways that we lie to ourselves and like the ways that we're imperfect, all of that. And I think often like we have this idealized image in our head of like, oh, when I'm healed, like I won't do that thing anymore. Or like when I'm healed, like I won't have these panic attacks. Or when I'm healed, like I'll never have any kind of conflict in my relationships. Or when I'm healed, like I'm not gonna have low self-esteem or whatever that is. And actually, like the deepest healing comes when we're just in complete acceptance of like, this is what it means to be human. Like, this is who I am. Like, I can actually have quite low self-esteem and still be completely in love with myself. Like, I can still get like dunked by the waves of my trauma responses. Like, I can still go into freeze for like a good 3 days and like just lie in bed, not really speaking to anyone, ordering takeaways with all of the lights off, and then like pop back out of it. And actually the healing is learning to like ride those waves and be in acceptance of that instead of trying to pretend and deny that they never exist. It's like you pop into the trauma vortex or whatever it is, and you pop back out of it, and actually that doesn't mean anything about you. Like it doesn't mean that you're like this terrible, bad, wrong, unhealed person. It just means that you grew up with a particular set of circumstances that mean that you have particular patterns. And ironically and paradoxically, the beautiful thing that happens is like when we just come into deeper acceptance of that, like it loses its charge. Like the things that we're desperately trying to avoid and stay away from, like they just naturally become less compelling. Like they naturally kind of lose their power and they just naturally start to dissolve without you actually trying to fix them. It's magic. It's beautiful. I love it.
Thank you for
Mm.
facilitating this juice for us all. I wanted to ask you, what do you think the most common self-sabotage pattern you see in society
Mm.
is? Like,
Oh
what do
my
you
God.
see a lot of people doing, and what's the shadow that a lot of people kind of walk around trying to fix?
I think most of us have got like a deep secret love of just being quite wrong on some level. And I think the flavor of that wrongness, is like different and personal for everyone. Um, but I think, yeah, most of us just love to deeply convince ourselves that there is something about us like just deeply wrong and unacceptable, and that we simply must hide this thing. I don't know. I think like rejection is probably quite a common one, like a secret shadowy love of being rejected in some way. I know that one that I've definitely opened up to is like I actually really love the sensation of shame, which again is an interesting one because in a lot of the new age self-development spheres, like, oh, we don't have to be ashamed of this and da 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 da. And it's true that sometimes we use shame to kind of cut ourselves off from parts of ourselves. But the sensation of shame in and of itself, if you take away the story of whatever that you've decided that means about you, the sensation of shame is really delicious. Like, it's actually really fun. And like, I mean, this is why obviously existential kink uses this kind of BDSM sadomasochistic type of a metaphor, because like there are many people who have a bedroom kink for like feeling a bit of shame and humiliation. But like, if I may give another personal example of this, I went on a silent meditation retreat last year, which is a great place to do existential kink work because like you cannot run away from your shit. Like you cannot project it onto anybody else. You cannot blame any outside circumstances. Like any stuff that's coming up, it's like you are creating this for yourself. You can't run away from it. And they had this like this is such a sweet, innocent example, but they had this porridge buffet for breakfast. And I found myself like every morning go and like I would put on like a lot of porridge in my bowl. And I felt like it was more porridge than anyone else was taking. I felt like I was being like a greedy little piggy, piling my bowl up with porridge and then like putting loads of sugary toppings on, like loads of like stewed fruit and cinnamon and like coconut and sugar and I just suddenly became really aware that I was like feeling deeply ashamed of my porridge situation. As I was like sitting down to go and eat it, I was like, nobody's making me feel ashamed. Like nobody is saying to me, your porridge is shameful. Like nobody cares. Literally nobody cares. Like it is just me
Stop eating all the
creating.
porridge, Rosie.
Stop me, put that porridge down. That's too much porridge for you. But I just was really seeing how I was creating. I'd used this situation to create this sensation of shame in myself. And once I saw that, I was like, I could really lean back into it. And I was like, my God, this is really fun. This is really fun. I love feeling ashamed about my porridge. And then I could see all these other areas in my life where like, yeah, I would use a specific situation and construct a mental story around it to create this sensation of shame for myself. So I don't know, maybe someone else will resonate with that. I mean, the porridge shame's quite a niche example, but I think shame, humiliation, and rejection, there's something delicious in that if we can open to it.
Yeah, we love being it's kind of like being a bad girl. It's like, ooh,
Being told off.
yeah, we want to be a little bit like, oh my God, I've been a rebel. I've like I've done something secretive. I've been a rebel. Like people that cheat, they get a hit from that thrill of the betrayal. Like people love, that's the same as shame. It's like I'm doing something shameful. People fucking chase that. They
Yeah.
chase the badness. They're like, I'm gonna be bad. I'm gonna eat this. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna call in sick to work when I'm actually fine. Like this is all shame, but we fucking love it. We're like, give it to me. I want to be a bad girl. And I love the way you called this psychic shibari. And you
Mm.
also said, like, in the existential kink world, it's like our brain's clitoris is being stroked by all of these sensations, like shame, that like fucking like rubbing your brain's clitoris, like getting off on a bit of shame, and like whatever the sensation is in the body, like the fear, the anger, the panic, the whatever it is, it's like that's what makes this existential kink model so erotic, is that, oh,
Yes.
like our brain is turned the fuck on and getting a little clit rub from us being a bad girl and feeling shame. And like the brain just fucking loves that, fucking loves the shadows, just having a great time.
I mean, I would say even like it's even to say it's like just the brain is like not the whole picture, because it's like our entire bodies are essentially like God's clit. And the stories that we tell ourselves, or the circumstances in our lives, are like the finger that strokes the clit of God to elicit a particular sensation. And like the other thing that is actually really important to say about existential kink is like this is a somatic practice. The truth is sensational. When you sit to do an existential kink meditation, and there's sometimes like a bit of an intuitive art as to like how to hold and frame a particular um thing in your life in order to like hit the sweet spot, but you'll know that you have hit the deep truth of what is true for you when you feel it in your body. Like you will feel an energetic shift. Like it's not just that it's not just a cognitive um telling myself like, oh, I love this, when actually like your body is like, I really don't love this. That's how we go into like spiritual bypass territory. It's really an energetic practice of like having some kind of get off. And it like the other thing to say is that get off isn't always sexual in nature. It might be that you genuinely feel like an electric zing in your clitoris when you think about like being rejected by somebody, but it might also be like a soft sense of relief. Like I have that quite a lot, of just like a sense of spaciousness opens up, or laughter, crying, grieving, like all of that I would count as EK. Seeing just like, even just having a perspective shift that comes with some kind of energetic, like, like loosening, totally counts as EK get off as well. Um, so yeah, it's a really important point to emphasize, is like we don't just tell ourselves like, oh, this repeating pattern is happening, so I must love it, and kind of gaslighting yourself into thinking that's true. It's like, sometimes we need to be very gentle with ourselves, very like, yeah, very loving. And these parts sometimes like they don't want to come to the surface right away, because often we've locked them away for like years and years and years. So sometimes they need like a few weeks of work to like gently be like, it's safe actually. Like I'm not going to shove you away anymore. Maybe I can get curious about like how this particular circumstance is giving me this sensation. And maybe that's just like quite funny, Maybe that can be sweet. Maybe that can be interesting, even compelling in like its brutality or like whatever, And sometimes the framing is an intuitive art.
And I can recommend Rosie's really good at that intuitive art. You knew exactly when I was ready to approach the hard shit, and when it was too like when it was too painful.
Yeah.
Thank you for breaking that down for us. I'd love to ask you for like just an intuitive little nugget of what do you want to tell anyone that might be listening that's like really fucking hustling their ass off to do the work and to like fix something and heal something, and that feels like, oh, I couldn't put, this pattern is like, this is the worst thing, this is like everyone hates me for this, or something they're really deeply not embracing.
Okay.
What's like a message for those people?
I love this. Yeah, I love this. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. I have been that person and still am that person sometimes, definitely. I have relatable content. I think just getting curious about and setting time aside to just be radically honest about like what is actually happening inside of you is very, very helpful. And for me, like what helps me to really tap into the existential kink current a lot of the times is like particular songs or pieces of art or like films that they're almost like little mirrors of like, can you see this like this person's struggle or this person's pain or this person's sorrow, and be able to see that as like beautiful and compelling and interesting and like, do you know what I mean? Like sometimes you'll watch a film and it just like hits exactly the right spot of like, oh my God, like this person needed this struggle in order to like get to this next stage of their life, or that kind of flavor of stuff I really enjoy. I think there is a mystic and poet and just incredible woman called Maya Luna, and I highly recommend her entire body of work. I think she doesn't say that she's like an existential kink practitioner, but she's tapped into a very similar current of energy. And she has an album of like poems that were turned into songs on Spotify. And she has a song called All of You, which I think you've
Mm,
probably used in some of your spaces, Charlotte. Like
yes.
that, I'm pretty sure she channeled that when she was in like the MoMA in New York or something. But anyway, that to me is such a direct transmission of this specific vibration that we're talking about, of like all of you is welcome here. Like there are some such incredible lyrics in that song. Like you're like the pain of never getting it exactly how you wanted, like your unrequited lust, like all of that stuff. And she's just like, bring it, all of it. It's all just part of this great fabric of reality. So yeah, I would say seek out those types of pieces of art that really help you to tap back into that sacred human messiness.
Mm, yes, thank you. And also turning it into art, like
Yes,
yourself. And
yes.
that's what has been helping me so much recently. Like when I was on my last bleed, I was feeling so angry and fearful. And I just moved here to Spain, and I was like feeling like almost like resentment about everything that I'd left behind. So I drew this like demon lady and I painted her with my blood. And I was like, fuck yes, I'm getting the darkness out and I'm turning it into art. And then
Yes.
today I felt this like, today I had this deep ache of like not feeling chosen in some way. And I was like, but I don't need to be like, there was an unhealthy subconscious pattern going on that wanted to be chosen in some way. That is like, that's just really fucking unnecessary. You're not a toddler. You don't need that level of like, pick me, pick me. But like, I just got it out in this poem about like love and separateness, and how like love is actually just watching someone grow and trusting that they're going to come back, but they also might not, and that there's like deep fear in that. And I got it all out in like a poem, and it feels so like,
Yes.
yes,
Yes. Artists are masters of this type of stuff. Like, oh my God, the joy of listening to like an incredibly melancholy song and like staring out of the window and just feeling so sad is like so delicious. It's so delicious and magical. And like, oh my God, the pain of not being chosen. Like the delicious pain of like I wanted this thing and I didn't get this thing, like all of it. You can turn all of it into art.
So much. And for anyone not watching the video, they just missed this perfect impression of Rosie like looking nostalgically out of a window.
Oh, oh, the yearning, the yearning.
The yearning, the
Delicious.
holy ache
The
is what
holy ache.
it's a holy ache. Yeah.
Fucking delicious. Like go into that.
Go into the holy ache because it's holy.
Delicious.
So,
Delicious.
talking of mystics and artists, I wanted to ask you because I personally feel like you're one of the most embodied mystic women in my life. Like you're so mystical.
Oh.
You're just everything about you just screams mystic, if I can say so myself. Also, like
Such a compliment. Thank you. Oh my God.
really like spicy mystic. But I just want to know how you embraced being the mystic because you're also like seeing you with your tarot decks and like leaning into this mystic woman that you are that's like carrying all these codes and facilitating dream work spaces where everyone comes in their pajamas and they like study their dreams and you're just there like this fucking oracle of the mystic realms. And I
In
just
my
want to
pajamas,
know
yeah.
for everyone listening, because I know a lot of mystics that are terrified to lean into that archetype and that gift. And fair enough, we've all got like the witch wound inside of us, and there's many things that stop us from kind of owning the fact that we're quite mystical and weird aliens. So yeah, how did you any advice for the mystics to really
Oh, I love
embody and
this
embrace?
question. I love this question. I love this question. I have a few thoughts. I think one is like, like when you really nurture that connection that you have with your inner guidance, the universe, God, goddess, whatever word you want to use, when that starts to become like a conversation, I think you actually then don't have to again make it like a thing to do of like, oh, I must become like more embodied. And because I've definitely tried to do this of like, oh yes, I must work harder on being more authentic. And actually when you just like lean back and let go a little bit, it just becomes like an undeniable truth. It's like, flowers don't try and blossom, they just turn towards the light and they open. And I think there's a degree of kind of just like leaning back into it and doing less can be really helpful. But the other thing that I would definitely say, which I'm really leaning into at the minute, is like get very clear on what is the sensation that comes up for you when you imagine like being seen, fully claiming the role of like mystic, witch, seer, whatever that thing is that you want to claim. Because a lot of the time, really, when you like focus in on transformation, all it ever really comes down to is that there is a certain threshold of sensation that we are not willing to feel. And then it kind of comes up like a wall and we back away from it and we're like, nope, can't go there. And so, like, get really clear on like what do I not want to be seen as, like what sensations do I not want to inflict on other people, like really get clear on what are the things and then just lean into them more and learn to get off on them. Like one for me, I think, is particularly coming from having a background in science, is like not wanting to be seen as just like this woo person who's like out of touch with reality and like creating sensations of like maybe disappointment in somebody. Something like that. I'm still like working on the particular flavor of that. And then training yourself to wildly get off on the fact that you actually can never control what other people think of you. And just like if you make people uncomfortable, get off on it. Lean into it. Oh, my witchiness is making you feel uncomfortable. How delicious. Like, how delicious that I'm inflicting those sensations on you. Very fun.
Whoopsie.
Yes, yes. There's lots of juice to be had there.
So much juice. And you just answered my next question, which is what kink is your brain currently getting off on? So I
Yes!
love that.
Oh my
That's what we meant
God. This is
there.
literally it. This is literally it. I'm doing like kind of a fun practice at the minute because I'm trying to grow my business and part of just reaching a different level of visibility is that people are going to see you. And some people are just going to pick up what you're putting down. Like some people are going to vibe you and they're going to like you and whatever. There will always be a certain percentage of people that project all kinds of shit onto you. They don't like you. They see you as like a weird, witchy, whatever, evil doer, whatever it is. And so I'm like trying to really lean into at the minute, like creating like identifying all of these traits that I don't want to be seen as, and then weaving a persona out of those that's like turning that into gold of like I can be these things that I don't want to be seen as and also be like compelling and inspiring and actually finding examples of characters in like films and history and mythology who like oh yeah, this person was seen this way, and also they're still Fleabag, the BBC drama series Fleabag. If you haven't watched it, watch it. It's such a meditation on existential kink. She's like rude, she's hypersexual, she says all the wrong things, and she is so compelling and inspiring, and I deeply love her. So that's something I'm working on. I'm like meditating on Fleabag at the minute.
Unleashing the inner flea bag.
Yes.
Oh, thank you, my love. This has been so unbelievably juicy. And yeah, I just cannot recommend anyone to try this method with Rosie enough. Like, it is so powerful to have someone not just like validate your most shameful parts, but allow you to see them as really spicy and fun. And like, I just spent every session with Rosie laughing at my own bullshit, laughing at my own wounds. And that was alchemy in itself. Like, just coming online, feeling so bad, feeling so low, feeling so like, oh my God, I'm such a shit girlfriend. I'm like such a bad leader, blah, blah, blah. And then coming online, laughing at myself with you and like alchemizing so much just through that. So I can't recommend it enough. Everyone go and check out Rosie. Obviously, I'll leave all your links in the show notes, but how can people currently find you, work with you, anything you want to share right now for the
Yeah.
community?
Oh, yeah, I had so much fun working with you, Charlotte. It was such a joy. Yes, so I offer coaching, I offer one-on-one coaching. I have a website, wildoracle.co.uk, and you can find me on Instagram, wildoracle with 2 underscores, which is kind of annoying. But 1 underscore was taken apparently. But you can find me there. But yeah, I do one-on-one coaching. I also do tarot reading as well, and I do some like in-person events. I'll be back in Cornwall in July, so yeah, keep an eye out for me there.
Amazing. Thank you, Rosie. I'll put all of Rosie's information in the show notes. Everyone go and spend some time in this mystical, beautiful, witchy woman's world. You won't regret it. It's a phenomenal, dreamy place to be. And thank you. Thanks for bringing your magic here today, my love.
Love you, Charlotte.
Love you.